Hey everybody, I'm Diana from Faraway Places, and I'm here today to share with you 101 things that are awesome to do in Paris. So let's get to it. Number 1, sit along the banks of the Seine as the sun sets. Ideally, you'll do this in June, but if you get lucky with the weather, you can literally do it all year round. And ideally, you'll get to do this several nights in a row, which means you can try out a bunch of different spots. My favorite include the right bank right below the Sully-Morlan metro stop, the southern bank of the Ile Saint-Louis, the stretch of the left bank between the Sully and the Jardin des Plantes in the Jardin Tino Rossi. If you're there in August, look for the Paris plage. Number 2, well, you probably have to go up the Eiffel Tower. It's actually required. Number 3, even better, watch the Eiffel Tower put on its nightly sparkle show from the steps in front of Sacré-Cœur up in Montmartre. Obviously, you'll want to go late. Follow it with dinner at La Boîte aux Lettres on Rue Gabrielle. The show lasts 5 minutes and starts every hour on the hour. Number 4, have you even been to Paris if you haven't taken a boat ride along the Seine? Bateau bus is the best of all the options. Definitely more utilitarian, it's not a luxury experience. But there are better places to have dinner in Paris than on a boat, and with a Bateau bus pass, you can trade the metro or Uber for a day and roam the river to your heart's content. Number 5, Notre Dame is now, sadly, one of the world's most expensive construction sites, but it's still a necessary stop. Go to the eastern end for a view of the damaged roof. On the western end, take a look at the temporary exhibits along the sidewalk, showing the interior of the structure, and then head all the way to the western tip of the island to see the beautiful, if small, Square du Vert Galon. Number 6, Sainte-Chapelle is right next to Notre Dame. But for an even better historic chapel, hop on Line 1 to go just across the city limit to the Château de Vincennes. Number 7, the Château de Vincennes feels like a military fortification. There's even a moat. If, however, you want a chateau in the sense of a palace, well, for that, obviously, you want Versailles, easily accessible by RER or Uber if you're swimming in cash. Do whatever you can to avoid crowds. Coming off season will help. If you like, watch Sofia Coppola's Marie Antoinette beforehand, even if the film was largely shot elsewhere, including at Vaux-le-Vicomte and the Château de Chantilly. Number 8, the Jardin des Plantes is just the most wonderful place in all of Paris, and that's really all there is to it. Possibly most beautiful in April, as the cherry trees are blooming, but the hardworking gardeners here make sure there's something to see all year round. Bring a lunch and grab one of the benches beneath the plane trees. This is the first place I take people when they visit. Number 9, if you've had your fill of outdoor drinks along the Seine, next up is outdoor drinks along the Canal Saint-Martin. Number 10, keep walking north along this canal to where it intersects with the elevated Line 2, then continue beneath it to the Bassin de la Villette, with its own outdoor drinking spots, plus swimming during the summer months, and paddle boats too. There's a movie theater on each of the facing quays in case you're looking for something slightly less active. Category 2, museums. Number 11, if you'll be in Paris for any length of time, maybe a month, do yourself a favor and become an ami du Louvre, which allows you free access to the museum. Go every day, get to know a very specific single gallery, and spend the next 6 months boring your friends back home with every detail of what you've seen. I spent all my time at the Islamic Gallery. The trick with the Louvre is to bite off precisely as little of it as possible and go deep versus wide. I mean, obviously, go wide too and see everything, but come back with your membership pass and dive deep into a single space. Number 12, you'll probably want to see the Mona Lisa, but the painting I always make a beeline for is Jeune Orpheline à la Cimetière by Eugène Delacroix. You'll find your own favorite. Number 13, other than that, the sculpture garden in the Cours Marly is extremely lovely. Number 14, the Orangerie is a spectacular way to see Monet's 8 huge water lily paintings. Depending on your taste, it might be the best visual art experience in the city. I know it is for me. Number 15, you wouldn't want to miss the Musée d'Orsay with its spectacular setting, a former train station, and world-class collection of mostly pre-World War I French art, basically every painter you were ever tested on in art history. Number 16, the Centre Pompidou is worth visiting when it has an excellent exhibition on. This happens often. Of course, the building by Richard Rogers will be of interest to architects. Those not excited by the whole world of aesthetics will want to get a look at the Parisian skyline from the top of its bank of escalators. Number 17, the Palais de Tokyo doesn't have a permanent collection, but its exhibitions showcasing the most contemporary of contemporary art can be excellent. Number 18, Fondation Cartier feels midway between a museum and a gallery, a very beautiful high-end gallery, of course. The grounds themselves are worth a look, with architecture by Jean Nouvel and a small woodland to the building's rear, designed by German conceptual artist Lothar Baumgarten. Number 19. It's worth trekking out to the Bois de Boulogne to see the Fondation Louis Vuitton, with a collection safely tucked inside a building designed by Frank Gehry. If you're looking for a post-museum activity, you'll be right near the starting point of the GR1, a 500-plus kilometer trail that swings all the way around Paris. Number 20. Especially if you don't want to leave town to see one of the palaces, the Musée Jacquemart-André is part stately home, part art gallery. The former includes what is undoubtedly the prettiest stairway in all of Paris. Number 21. I really should not mention the Musée Nissim de Camondo because I find it a bit boring compared to the other museums on this list, but it does have the most beautiful and Wes Anderson-y bathroom. Number 22. If you've been to the Picasso Museum in Barcelona, I'm not sure that the Paris version is worth the time, especially if you're on a tight schedule. It really depends on the quality of the visiting exhibitions, which have ranged from sublime to so-so. The building itself is beautiful, and take the time for a drink at La Perle, the neighborhood hotspot about 50 meters west. Category 3, food. Number 23. My favorite thing to eat in Paris is a croissant. There are all sorts of lists of where to buy the best, but I personally love all croissants equally, though possibly those at Miss Manon in the Marais slightly more than all the others. Number 24. I do not love all beignets equally. In fact, I am quite a snob about them and only eat beignets from the Coquelicot Bakery in Montmartre, which is my local spot before moving back down that massive hill. Number 25. Speaking of bakeries, it's French law. You need to eat a baguette within 30 minutes of buying it. Yes, the entire thing, or you are sent to jail. Seriously, though, it's not Wonder Bread. I was raised on Wonder Bread. I'm not judging. So forget saving it for the morning. Note that a tradition is the better version of a baguette. Number 26. You might like those cute little épiceries with a half dozen products for sale. I, however, am from New Jersey, and so I must naturally gravitate toward the most mall-like offering. In this case, La Grande Épicerie at Le Bon Marché, which has everything. A fishmonger, a bakery, a cheese shop, etc., etc. a person could want from a French food experience, as well as an entire shelf devoted to American products, including fluff. Number 27. If you're looking for a slightly more refined experience, try Maison Plisson. Don't let all the perishables and vegetables on the ground floor put you off. Head down the steps for a travel-ready selection of oils, snacks, sweets, wines, and much more. Number 28. If you would prefer to actually go to several specialty shops instead of just one, it is time for a tour down Rue des Martres in the 9th. It is a sort of food paradise with one fancy shop after another. My favorite is the local outpost of mini chain La Meringue, which sells nothing but meringue pastries with seasonal fruits. Number 29. If you want to eat and drink how actual Parisians are eating and drinking, head for one of the Wild and the Moon locations. It's, quote, vegan to go, as inspired by the co-founder's time in New York, presumably taking a lot of meetings at Sweetgreen. I would be lying if I said I hadn't ordered many, many protein shakes from the one on Rue Amelot. Number 30. Of course, you might want something more sophisticated than an acai bowl. In that case, it's time to go to one of Paris's many Michelin-starred restaurants. And oh, what's this? On my website, a list of 17 Michelin-starred restaurants offering meals, read lunch, for under 55 euros. Number 31. The trick at 99% of cafes with lovely Parisian outdoor seating is don't eat there. Just drink there. My current favorite is Le Bastille. Number 32. If you're still looking around for somewhere to eat, the fooding should be your next stop. I found most of my favorite restaurants by plugging in my postal code into their best restaurants finder, including La Mairie Celeste and the Café de la Nouvelle Marie. Plus, it's free and in English. It's an incomparable deal. Category 4, day and weekend trips, local. Number 33. Nothing can beat Monet's garden at Giverny, which is just staggeringly beautiful. Crowded always, but for some attractions, you just got to live with it, and this is one of them. Number 34. There are several Van Gogh-related attractions in Auvers-sur-Oise, but the best choice in the matter is to do as Van Gogh did himself and head out into the surrounding countryside for a wander. The French love a hike, so if you do too, just search for randonnée plus your destination. For example, check out the website Viso Rando and you'll find plenty of hikes around Auvers. Number 35. Thanks to its super fast TGV trains, Lille, a 3-hour drive, is but a 1-hour, extremely comfortable, not cheap, but not cataclysmically expensive ride away. I love Lille, especially as a counterpart to Paris. It's right on the border of Belgium, something that should be evident from all the Flemishy architecture and the seemingly universal preference for beer over wine. While you're there, visit Louvre Lens, the Louvre satellite in nearby Lens, and La Piscine in equally nearby Roubaix, which is part museum, part spectacular indoor and highly Instagrammable pool. Number 36. Le Havre is just as great as Lille, and with an entirely different feel. Norman, not Flemish. While in Lille, you can still hear the echoes of World War I, here is the effects of World War II that remain visible. The city was heavily bombed by the Allies, and particularly by the British Air Force, toward the end of the war, leaving literally half of its 160,000 inhabitants homeless. The modern architecture, though a product of tragedy, is beautiful. Be sure to see Auguste Perret's Star Wars-esque Église Saint-Joseph, the excellent Museum of Modern Art, and Perret's apartments created after the war to provide immediate low-cost housing to the displaced. Number 37. Imagine the Hamptons if instead of a beach you had rolling French countryside and you have Le Perche, where generations of Parisians head to their parents' magnificent country homes. It really is beautiful. I don't like all the travel writing in the Times, but come to my site and I'll link to an account of visiting from 2007. I don't like all travel writings in the Times, but I do love this account that I found from 2007 of traveling to this part of France. It's 2 hours from Paris, I was told, in Lower Normandy, not far from Chartres. It has glorious manoirs and chateaux and is famous for its perchons. It really is beautiful. Category, I think we're at 5. International day and weekend trips. Number 38, London. If you haven't been, obviously you must. There is nothing more magical than heading north for the weekend and coming back on Sunday with a suitcase full of Anglophone books, cheddar cheese, Marks & Spencer snacks, and as many Sunday restaurants will fit in your bag. Go via Eurostar from the Gare du Nord. Number 39, Amsterdam. In just under 3 hours, you can go from the Louvre to the Rijksmuseum for a sunny stroll along the canals. Amsterdam is just wonderful, as is the surrounding and easily accessed countryside, especially in April when the entire place is carpeted in tulips. Go via Eurostar from the Gare du Nord. Number 40, Zurich. It is rather unbelievably possible to do Zurich as a day trip to Paris. Number 40, Zurich. It is rather unbelievably possible to do Zurich as a Number 40, Zurich. It is rather unbelievably possible to do Zurich as a day trip from Paris as long as you don't mind spending a lot of time on the train. If you go in winter, head immediately to the Thermalbad Spa with heated pools overlooking the surrounding mountains. And if you're there in summer, join the rest of the city at the many outdoor pools. Go via TGV Lyria from the Gare de Lyon. Number 41, Luxembourg. When will you have another chance to see an entire country in a single day? What's there to do? I don't think a whole lot. The Adolf Bridge is very pretty as bridges go. The cathedral? Why not? Then hop back on the train and come back to Paris. Go via TGV from the Gare de l'Est. Number 42, Antwerp. Personally, I prefer Antwerp to teeny tiny Bruges, which feels to me a little like the showcase of nations. Number 42, Antwerp. Personally, I prefer Antwerp to teeny tiny Bruges, which to me feels like a little part of the Showcase of Nations from Epcot Center. Antwerp feels like a real city inhabited by real Belgians, who may or may not be involved in the making of designer chocolate. Go via Thalys, I think actually it's Eurostar now. Go via Eurostar from the Gare du Nord. Category 6, festivals. Number 43, the Paris Marathon is usually in April. Number 43. The Paris Marathon is usually in April, right when the cherry blossoms are blooming. The course goes from Bois to Bois, mostly along the Seine, where the crowds are best. Number 44. Speaking of, cherry blossom season in Paris is super magical. Come to my site for a list of my favorite places to watch them. Number 45. The Salon du Louvre, or the Paris Book Fair, is a giant festival of books held at a conference center at the Porte de Versailles on the city's southern rim. It's definitely better if you speak and or read French, but even Anglophones will find plenty to enjoy from the hundreds of book-loving exhibitors. There are tons, just tons, of great small presses in France. This is the easiest way to find them all, and quickly. Number 46, the Fête de la Musique. It's the best night of the year in all of Paris. It's also the shortest. On the summer solstice, usually June 21st, bands big and small play in every corner of Paris long into the night. It is magical. Number 47, Bastille Day, July 14th, or 14 Juillet. This is like a 3/4 speed 4th of July, with fewer barbecues but just as many fireworks, which in Paris are set off from around the Eiffel Tower. Number 48. Late August isn't actually an official holiday on the French calendar, but it is certainly an unofficial one, with anyone who can take... Number 48. Late August isn't officially a holiday on the French calendar, but it is certainly an unofficial one, with anyone who can taking off for the hinterlands, read beach cottage, country manor, castle. That means Paris in late August is marvelously devoid of Parisians, and the city slows down to a crawl. If you like wandering through a beautiful city in the late summer heat and stopping frequently for wine, this is your time. People start leaving for the rest of the summer as early as Bastille Day, with every weekend seeing more and more departures until everyone comes back in early September. Number 49. Paris's version of the international phenomenon known as Nuit Blanche is in early October, with events and parties going all night long. At my first Nuit Blanche, I saw a Kai Guo Chang fireworks show on the Seine, and it was spectacular, and none has been quite as good, but hope springs eternally. Number 50. So you'll definitely need to leave Paris for the best Christmas markets. In my opinion, you'll want to head east and not stop before you hit Strasbourg. Even better, keep going all the way to Baden-Baden, my superior Christmas market destination. The right Christmas market, in my opinion, is one of those rare things that's as good as their press. Cheerful, singular, and full of mulled wine. These are all excellent. Category 7, cafes and bars. This is a highly personal list of my favorite cafes and bars. Your list surely will be different from mine, not least because mine is largely dependent on including options only within a 5-minute walk of where I've lived. Rule: it is the rare cafe that offers food equal to the pleasures of sitting outside with a glass of wine. It is perhaps unfair of us to expect a cafe to do the work of a restaurant. Choose wisely or go on a full stomach or with reservations for dinner afterward. Number 51. There are so many cafes on Ile Saint-Louis, my first Paris home, on my second time in Paris, but for whatever reason, I always seem to end up at this one. There are so many cafes on Ile Saint-Louis, but for whatever reason, I always seem to end up at La Brasserie de l'Île Saint-Louis, most likely because it has a very sunny view of Ile de la Cité, next door. Number 52. The outdoor seating is supposed to be the thing at the Café Del Mar, spilling out onto the Place de la Contrescarpe, but equally appealing are the warrens of indoor cubbies offering semi-private drinking for many small parties. Number 53. There are a half dozen cafes overlooking the traffic roundabout known as Bastille, but my favorite is the Bastille because of its extremely stylish vintage decoration. Number 54. I feel like this might be the perfect Paris cafe. Le Progrès isn't as much about sitting outside as it is watching everyone walk through Montmartre through the gigantic windows. Number 55. I wrote half of my book, my new book, on a banquette in the back of La Barbouille. I always get the salad with goat cheese and a Diet Coke. Number 56. Café de l'Industrie has a very special place in my heart, as it is the cafe where I both met my first cousin once removed, Ashley, and where she and I crawled under a chair because we thought we were about to be killed by terrorists. It's still a first-rate cafe, just don't get the pasta. Number 57. With its industrial steel finishes and subway tile walls, La Favorite is the pumpkin spice latte of Parisian cafes. It's that basic, but it is also delicious and extremely comfortable, and it has both excellent Wi-Fi and enough electrical outlets to go around. J'adore. Number 58. With a similar style, Café Charlot offers prime people watching along the fashiony Rue de Bretagne. It's an entertaining nightmare during Fashion Week. Number 59. The cafes and bars section here is perilously short of bars, perhaps to make space for the Comptoir Général, half hidden down a courtyard in the 10th. Once inside, you'll find a sprawling complex consisting of a huge bar, a shop, including a brand new épicerie cave à rhum, gallery, and more. Extremely friendly, extremely busy. Go off hours unless you like a crowd. Number 60. If you'd like to see how the other 1% lives, make a res for cocktails at Bar Hemingway, the authorially themed bar located inside the Ritz and made famous by Hemingway himself. If you're traveling on a budget, an evening here can more than suffice as a night's activity, Just be sure to bring someone who's good for gossiping about all the richy riches at the surrounding tables. Do go downstairs to the bathrooms for a look at quite a bit of luxury. I think this is category 8, parks. Number 61. There are no big parks within the very center of Paris, though the banks of the Seine are a good equivalent of Central Park or Hyde Park, that lovely place in the middle of everything where everyone goes when the weather's nice. The closest exception would be the Jardin des Plantes, which is as close to perfect as it gets. Restful, ever-changing, immaculately cared for. It's just wonderful. Number 62. Just slightly west of the Jardin des Plantes and along the bank of the river, you'll find the Jardin Tino Rossi. It's best known as a spot for nighttime dancing in the summer, but it's lovely in the spring when the willow trees are leafing out and the cherry trees bloom. Number 63. Speaking of, there are cherry trees all over Paris, but the best collection might be at the Parc Sceaux, which has both a lovely garden and a chateau of its own. Number 64 and 65. Paris's two bois, the Bois de Boulogne on the west and the Bois de Vincennes on the east, are wilder and woollier than, say, Central Park. I like the Bois de Boulogne because it's near the start of the GR1, a 325-mile circuit around Paris, and it includes the Fondation Vuitton, a worthy art museum in a spectacular Frank Gehry designed building. The Bois de Vincennes is worth visiting too, for the Parc Floral, more cherry trees, obviously, and access to the nearby Chateau de Vincennes. I don't, though, consider them must-visits like the Jardin des Plantes, or, if it's convenient, the Parc Monceau in the 17th. Number 66. Speaking of, the Parc Monceau is like if the Upper East Side, Paris equivalent, the 8th arrondissement, had its own swath of Central Park all to itself. It's extremely manicured, and lovely, and abuts the Musée Nissim and the Musée Nissim de Camondo. Number 67. The Jardin du Luxembourg is a friendlier, bigger park with a famous basin, perfect for little sailboats, statues and flowers, pony rides, snack kiosks, and tennis courts. There's a higher percentage of tourists here than at the other parks on this list, but its charms are undeniable. Number 68. The Parc des Buttes-Chaumont is just lovely. Way up in the 19th, it's both quite far north and on a hilly elevation, which means if you climb up to the Temple de la Sibylle, you'll get terrific views of Montmartre. There's also a suspension bridge above an artificial lake designed by Gustave Eiffel of Eiffel Tower fame, plus an excellent outdoor bar at Rosa Bonheur. Number 69, the Coulée Verte, aka the Promenade Plantée, might be the top cool tourist attraction on this part of the list. If you've been to the High Line in Manhattan, you get the idea. The High Line, in fact, was modeled on the Coulée Verte, a narrow, verdant pathway above the city. The truly ambitious can walk all the way from Bastille to Vincennes, though the best parts are closer into Bastille. Number 70. Obviously, you can't miss the Tuileries. God, I can never say that word. Once the private garden of Catherine de Medici. Head there after the Louvre when you're in need of a long sit down. I prefer it in the spring and summer. I prefer everything in the spring and summer, but it feels the most itself in the fall. Number 71. Beyond the Palais Royal's omnipresent black and white columns, more officially a public art installation by Daniel Buron called Les Deux Plateaux, is the Farmer's Palace's garden, which is beautiful, not least for its extremely French version of a highly manicured lime and red chestnut trees. Number 72. I'm not sure you'd want to dip out of central Paris to visit the Parc André Citroën, but if you're near the 15th, it's well worth stopping by. It's a weirdly modern park, not least because it's built on the grounds of a former Citroën automobile manufacturing plant. Number 73. Just across the Paris line in Boulogne-Billancourt, you'll find the Jardin Albert Kahn, with a Japanese-style garden that was apparently meticulously constructed after Monsieur Kahn's revelatory trip there. Number 74. Possibly saving the best for last, or at least the most underrated for tourists, is the Roseraie du Val du Maine, a spectacular rose garden that's only worth seeing in bloom. But for those few weeks, it is an utterly spectacular rose-filled sight. Category 9, shopping. Number 75. If I had to choose one store to shop at for the rest of my time in Paris, it would be Le Bon Marché. Prohibitively expensive, yes, but with neat, smart buys that won't break the bank, plus excellent installations from leading contemporary artists. The grocery hall, it's too elegant to call it a grocery store. It's a delight. Best of all are the seasonal pop-up shops, bringing in all sorts of unexpected treasures, often quite cheap from here and there. One of the rare disappointments, a collection of J. Crew from an LA-themed pop-up. Why? Number 76. Of course, that being said, Le Bon Marché is all the way across town, so my actual, rather than ideal, one-stop shop is BHV. I always say BHV. The gargantuan, definitely cheaper department store in the figurative shadow of City Hall, the titular Hôtel de Ville, BHV officially being the Bazar du Hôtel de Ville. There's always something new to see here. The diptyque concession, a plant boutique that took over when anthropology moved into its own digs down the street. I mostly go directly to the third floor for books and art supplies, though I once exited the basement hardware store with a giant ladder that I consider, to this day, the best purchase I've ever made in France. Number 77. Empreinte is like if Macy's were Macy's, but it only sold extremely fancy handmade goods from the best of France's artisans, specifically those represented by the Atelier d'Art de France. Number 78. Similarly, Merci is a multi-level concept shop in the Upper Marais. Instead of $100 sandstone vases like at Empreinte, it stocks the hippest of the hip brands in clothing, accessories, and homewares. The women's collection is back to the right, but my favorite part is the giant space you walk into from the street, which is where their thematic pop-up collections are usually shown. Number 79. I don't care if it's a cliche at this point, I just love Cézanne. Number 80. Similarly, Lou Yatou is selling a very specific take on the Paris girl vibe, but I happen to love that vibe, so I don't care if it's the France Number 80. Similarly, Number 80. Also, number 80. Just like Cézanne, Lou Yatou is selling a very specific take on the Paris girl vibe, but I personally happen to love that vibe, so I don't care if it's the France jewelry version of pumpkin spice latte. I usually go to the seasonal location in the Marais, but the flagship near Opera, fuck me. Number 81, controversial opinion. Shakespeare & Co. is for tourists. After a while, you graduate to the half-Anglo, demi-Francais Galliani on Rue de Rivoli, which is a just beautiful bookstore with a smartly curated gallery of international fiction in English in the back. A very friendly staff and, bonus, no lines out the door. Number 82, Aroma Zone. This is so embarrassing, but I legit love this store, selling essential oils, carrier oils, creams, and other material for making your own soaps and cosmetics, and it is packed with Parisians. The French to tourist ratio here is higher in favor of the French than anywhere else I've ever been in Paris, except for like a tax office. Number 83. I hate to put two bookstores on the list, but you know what? I totally don't. An OFR is a national treasure, part fancy magazine shop. Number 83. Number 83. OFR is a national treasure, part fancy machine shop, part art bookstore, part gallery. And while you're here, stop by Yvonne Lambert, about 5 minutes away, for even more art books and gallery shows. Number 84. Papier Tigre has very cute paper goods. I cannot remember what category number this is. I think category 10. Category 10, events. Number 85. I know I just said that Galliani is a better bookstore than Shakespeare & Co., and I stand by that. But if you're wondering where the Anglophone literary... Fuck me. Number 85. I know that I just said that Galliani is a better bookstore than Shakespeare & Co., and I mostly stand by that. But if you're wondering where the Anglophone literati are at, check to see if Shakespeare & Company has an author event coming up. Number 86. Parisians love their movies. If you're going to be here for any length of time, I heartily recommend the UGC Pass. There's nothing better than sitting in the UGC at Les Halles and just going from salle to salle to salle watching movies. It's mostly big box stuff, but they get plenty of weird, tiny films here too. Number 87. If you're looking for a higher class of cinema... Number 87. If you're looking for a higher class of cinema, try one of the myriad independent cinemas. Le Champeau offers a 10-movie pass for €50. Number 88. I don't immediately connect to the Moulin Rouge vibe, but I swear everyone I know who's been has loved it. Number 89. Meetup is a really great way to meet, indeed, a bunch of people as quickly as possible. Events are always of varied quality, but if you want to get out and see the countryside but don't want to do it alone, the Power Hiking Paris group does proper workouts of 10 miles and up. Number 90. So you wanted to make... Number 90. So you wanted to meet real deal poets in Paris, mostly Anglophone poets? Paris Lit Up hosts weekly open mics at Culture Rapide. Stick around after for drinks. Number 91. The Bellevueoise has an extremely eclectic roster of jazz, world music, brunch, films, basically everything in a fun and open late neighborhood. Some events are in English, some are in music, if you know what I mean. And that, ironically, is the end of the list that I thought had 101 things, but only has 91. Come to my website for all the links and more information about each of these activities. I will also find 10 more things. And thanks for sticking by with my pronunciation of these myriad French words. I've been there for a long time, but I still struggle sometimes. I think that's okay. Thanks and take care.